Right. So hello everyone. This is a last minute change. I have no idea why I would be the one that substitute this change, but still happy to meet you guys. And it is our great pleasure to have some honorable speakers here. The first is Mark from PIF, and Jose from Metis, and Jimmy, my good old friend from 𝘝𝘐𝘐𝘕. So maybe we can start with the first question. Is DeFi back? Is the bull run back? Anyone could pick up?
Hello. Yeah. So according to the metrics, DeFi seems to be back. Especially this morning. So Blast launched like yesterday, and this morning we were looking at the data usage of the Pyth Oracle on Blast, and I think there was already like 12K price updates requested by application. 12K in a day, that's quite a lot for EVM. So perps, ball lending, like whether or not we like Blast, people are using it. And this is true for all, like plenty of layer 2s, layer 3s we've seen in the past, all the metrics. And at Pyth, we care about price updates. And these numbers have been like increasing a lot. So DeFi is back, price are up, so TVL is up. And I think overall today, Pyth network like secures $3 billion across 50 chains. The last time we had 3 billion, it was the top of life cycle. So that's where we at least according to Pyth.
I would definitely say DeFi is back. Usually the crypto cycles work in a funny way. They follow the same lines as the global liquidity cycles. So all of these 4-year periods that we're seeing, they have a reason of being. We're seeing now all of these volume, active users, TVL coming back into not only one or two networks, the whole space. And we're seeing indicators as well. For example, NFTs pumping a lot of active users going into this sector of the market. We tend to see this whenever there's a lot of newcomers and whenever there's a lot of liquidity coming into the ecosystem. So to summarize, I would say definitely DeFi is back.
Jimmy.
From my perspective, I think the market for DeFi is turning warm, but they are not actually back to the highest time as it was in 2020 and 2021. We can see that the people are very enthusiastic about chain Lego, which means deposit money to layer 1 and layer 2 and today's layer 3. And people are very enthusiastic about staking Lego. Liquid staking is, and restaking is. But do you like for the pool 1, pool 2, this kind of the DeFi Legos, like Curve, Convex, Actually, I think DeFi has become a very important infrastructure. But people are not so getting so excited about DeFi as they get to maybe the chain Lego and the staking Lego. So from my think, I think there's still a long way and enough room for the DeFi to getting hotter and hotter. But for sure, the TVL is back and the active users are back. But I think they can get much better in the near future. Yeah.
That's great, Jamie. Totally agree. And there's one follow-up questions for Mark. Honestly, personally, I feel like PIF is doing great in doing market adoption. DeFi is back, but not many projects capture this whole new narrative for TVL. So what is your strategy in bringing new projects into the PIF ecosystem? And what are you going to do in upcoming future?
Yeah, definitely. So historically, PIF started natively on Solana, but 2022 like pivoted kind of with our V2. And now the PIF price feeds are available on over 50 blockchains. So I think and this is one key aspect of our recent success, is this type of first mover advantage. We're already live on Blast. We're live on like many Berachain testnet, for example, and all those recent Mode and other OP stack chain. So really being the first one, especially for infra, like DeFi needs an oracle, or most of DeFi needs an oracle. So being first helped us a lot. And the second thing is how 𝘚𝘐𝘐𝘕 is designed also. It's an on-demand or pull model oracle, which is permissionless to integrate. So while I do a bunch of DeFi BD, like I would say 25% of 𝘚𝘐𝘐 activity is just people reading the docs integrating. So having a product that's super scalable from our end also is our work. And like I think one of the great boost we got was from Synthetics integrating 𝘚𝘐𝘐. They were pretty much the first user a year and a half ago. They managed to do 50 billion in perp trading. And since then, like on all those 50 chain, apart one or two exceptions, the leading perp is using 𝘚𝘐𝘐. And after, like it's snowball. It's very much like, oh, I trade here, they use 𝘚𝘐𝘐, it works well. I'm confident in the product.
That's great. And for Metis, Jose, how would you try to boost the active on-chain activities, like active on-chain activities on Metis?
So there's two ways in which we're doing this, and we're combining them too. The first one is traditionally layer 2s haven't really decentralized the sequencer or prioritized sequencer decentralization, which takes us or brings a little bit of censorship risk, liveness risk, and the foundation gets to accrue all the revenue generated by the sequencer, which is not a bad thing, depending on what's the angle of the project, right? But Metis is focusing on decentralizing the sequencer, which will improve, like I said, the censorship risk, liveness risk, and is going to enable revenue sharing capabilities. So I think the name of the game at the end of the day is incentive alignment. And if we get to allow end users, builders, node operators, all the network participants to benefit from the network's growth, I think that's where we can really onboard not only users, builders, and a lot of interesting projects. And the second point would be, we recently launched our ecosystem development fund. Whenever it launched, it was at $100 million. It's currently sitting above $500 million. So this is definitely a big incentive for developers to come into a network and take advantage of this. At the end of the day, the more we fund these ecosystem projects, the more daily active users, transactions, and TVL are going to grow. The more transactions are generated, the more revenue for the sequencer, which is not only for the foundation or for the project, but for all the network participants. And since Metis is going to be operating a couple of these nodes or a few of these nodes, Metis is going to get to accrue a lot of this revenue as well, which is going to go back to the ecosystem development fund and enhance or ignite this cycle of perpetual growth that we want for the ecosystem. So that's the way we're looking at it, by having proper incentive alignment and by having a well-sized fund to bring developers. I think that's going to be the right combination to bring activity into Metis.
Okay. Jimmy, they sound so promising. 𝘚𝘐𝘐 Oracle, would you consider? Are you using 𝘚𝘐𝘐?
Yeah, we're working with 𝘚𝘐𝘐. And we are also trying to provide the cross feeding to the 𝘚𝘐𝘐 network. Because Izumi is a multi-chain DEX, actually we have not only the mainstream token like Bitcoin and ETH, we also provide a place for many long-tail tokens trading. And these tokens actually, they cannot get the price feeding from the centralized exchange. So as a decentralized exchange, we are very happy to work with the Oracle to make the assets, especially in more and more layer 2s and layer 3s, some promising new assets can be tracked by the Oracle. Right. And for the question, actually I can add several sentences. I totally agree with Mac that the first mover is very important. Because embracing with the new chains and new communities can help us to bring a lot of fresh air and also to get on board more new users. So we are the first DEX on many new chains. Like we are ranking top on Manta data chain, and also we are one of the first DEX building on the Bitcoin layer 2. And also, we are very happy to work with 𝘝𝘐𝘐𝘐𝘐 for the layer 3. So it is a chain Lego, right? So being the first mover means we need to provide liquidity by ourselves. It means some risk, but we'd like to take it and provide the best liquidity for the users. That can help to get more on-chain real activities.
Right. So one follow-up question. Jose is a good guy sitting next to you. Would you build a Metis?
Sure. Actually, I just had breakfast with Kevin. Yeah, this morning. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So the second question is about layer 3. Why layer 3? When there are so many layer 2s, and there's modular DA, there is 𝘝𝘐𝘚𝘐𝘐𝘕 upgrade. Why layer 3? Maybe we start with Mark.
I think it's going to depend according to the app. Some want great UX. Like if you're PubDex, you want to compete versus Binance. You don't want 20 approval when you do a trade. You don't want to pay whether even 20 cents or $10 for a trade. So perp-wise, bring a better UX, less cost to the user, definitely the reason. After, you could also view it in some protocol kind of pivot into like having a layer 3, having a sequencer enabled to generate a lot of revenue, which like for protocols, most of protocol, it's rather hard to do. So for some, it also kind of level up the ability for the team protocol DAO to 20x revenues. So according to your app, like you have various reasons to go the L3 way. And I guess we're seeing the L3 like accelerating because the L2s have started to be quite expensive. Like Arbitrum, Optimism, and I checked this morning, a few transactions, like complex DeFi transactions, gonna cost you $2, $3, $4. Or Base, same story. So it's, I think, also kind of the quick fix towards having barely no fees. But with the upcoming upgrade on Ethereum front, like layer 2s, let's say, gonna improve by 10x. So I would expect that layer 3s are gonna be a bit less needed in a couple months, but then again, the same cycle starts. More activity on the layer 2s, on the layer 1, and again, the L3 is gonna become attractive.
I completely agree with Mark. I think it's also a matter of supply and demand at the moment, or by the time it was only Ethereum and layer 2s, there were times in which we would see a lot more demand that the supply could actually tolerate. So this would end up in super high fees, like Mark was commenting, and not a super pleasant user experience, right? So this is one of the reasons, but also for the tailoring of these dApps. There are different dApps with different goals, and not all of them want to have their users paying for every single transaction. Let's use a simple example. We're building a game, and who wants to be paying in every single move of a game? Who want to like have to pay transactions for every single action? Like, it's not really fun per se. So the incentive or the reason why they will be playing the game is taken away by incorporating these fees or by not solving this issue. And by having layer 3 networks, we can get these games or these layer 3 to be pretty much gasless. Or we can implement, if there was other type of application and we want to have stable coins as the gas currency, we can also do it. So I would say it's because of supply and demand, it's because of the tailoring benefits that these layer 3s enable, and it's because whenever we have high transaction generating applications like games, for example, yesterday we announced that DeFi Kingdoms is going to be coming to Metis, and it would make sense to have a layer 3, because at the end of the day, if there are hundreds of thousands or millions of transactions being generated on mainnet because of this game, other users are going to be affected as well. And it's going to have potentially a negative impact in the rest of the network. So I would say supply and demand, tailoring, and for a better overall user experience in the layer 2 and the layer 3.
Yes, I totally agree with the opinion of both Mike and Jose. And I think for now, most of the layer 2s are built for general purpose, which means there's DEX, there's lending, there's perp DEX, there's gaming, NFT, all on these layer 2s. So a general purpose, similar like layer 1. But for layer 3, actually, I think they should be specially designed and also tailor-made for the applications. We have saw the success of maybe some like gaming layer 3, like XAI. And also we are looking forward to the maybe trading or omni-trading layer 3, like building by maybe zk-Link and many other partners. And there will also be lending layer 3, which can be very, I think, tailor-made to get more real users on board. Maybe some users who don't know how to pay the gas, who don't know how to buy the gas, they can still use a specially designed layer 3 to do the on-chain transparent lending and borrowing. Yeah, so I think special purpose layer 3 will be the future train for some DApp. Maybe there are some DApp chains, and also for even some big entities, like some big companies. They can make their internal management to be more transparent and traceable on the chain. I think that will be very meaningful for the whole industry. But I have one simple question, maybe for the Jose. Do you think like the layer 3 will do harm to the gas fee earnings for layer 2s? Because they will take away a lot of transactions from layer 2 to layer 3s, right? So less gas fee will be generated for the layer 2 sequencers. Do you think that will be an issue for the general purpose layer 2s?
To some extent, it could become, but again, I believe this is more the result of kind of like a misalignment in supply and demand, and the different in kind of like the difference in user experience. So for a game, it makes sense to be deployed on a layer 3, but most dApps won't necessarily be deployed on that layer 3. The main ecosystem will most likely like stay on the layer 2. If there are, for example, in the case of Metis, if there is a system that will align incentives for all of these participants, it might be not a great idea even like for some of these users or dApps to go to a layer 3 because they might be missing out on this potential revenue accrual. It would be opportunity cost to some extent. And just to touch again on that kind of like the layer 3, I think we're also going to see like, yes, games, some specialized apps, and also permission chains. I think like a lot of these layer 3s are going to be mostly for Web 2 or TradFi organizations that want to tailor the blockchain to their convenience. That way, they don't need to engage in risks or with features that they don't understand. And they can have their business model just like they wanted on chain.
Thanks.
Right. So there's one last question to wrap up. As we see, there is more and more layer 2s and layer 3. Maybe we could reach thousands or millions layer 2, layer 3s. What's your vision on Ethereum with all these layer 3, layer 2 being a whole new ecosystem compared to like few years ago, there's just one Ethereum layer 1. So maybe start with Mark.
I think we just changed compared to last cycle from alt layer 1s to just now on top of Ethereum, because like other, let's say, most of the other EVM-based layer 1 like have grown, I think, in general, less than Ethereum itself. So I guess we just changed from alt layer 1 to an increased number. The one thing that I'm hopeful, or it's going to take some time because it's going to be hard, but as soon as you're going to be able to have like seamless communication between layer 2s, layer 3s, it's going to change the world. Because if you still have to, it's a pain to bridge from L1, in between L1, even to an L2 or back to a L1. So if you start having 1,000 chains and you still have this bridging need, like we haven't moved the needle one bit compared to last cycle. So once you have this, so I think initially it will work like within the same stack. So we could say the OP stack gonna have, or zk-Sync, hyperchain, they're going to be able, I think, to talk to each other pretty fast. But what if you want hyperchain from zk-sync and OP to talk together? So I guess we have to like settle this issue, and after it's going to be like seamless, and like it's going to grow 100x in activity. If you, again, kind of not obfuscate, but people not even caring or seeing on which chain they're on is, I mean, when your parents will be able to use the blockchain.
I couldn't agree more. Like, I couldn't agree more. I think the moment in which we will see mass adoption is when people have no idea that they're interacting with blockchain. And what have I taken from the progressive increase in layer 2s and layer 3s? I think we're seeing higher interest in the industry. I think this is the result of, like we were saying, excess demand. And by that time, we didn't have enough supply. Now we're getting ready to be able to host all of that demand. And collectively, I think we all believe it will keep increasing, and that's why we're all here, that's why we are building this type of solutions, and that's why we are so optimistic on these type of solutions. So I would say my take from all of these development of layer 2s, layer 3s, some people might think, oh, it's redundant. I think it's actually the proof that demand is coming on-chain.
I'm also very optimistic about the future of Ethereum and also the whole ecosystem. From my thinking, I think the layer 1 to layer 2 to layer 3 maybe can be compared to the 3G to 4G to 5G in the telecommunication. So with better infrastructure, quicker, faster, and cheaper, you can get more applications. Some of them maybe you have imagined about it before you build it, but some of them just happen with some coincidence. For example, if we build GMX on layer 1, I think it's very hard because every time they need to get a price feeding, it's very expensive. And in the meantime, for the people they want to trade, they cannot. They will pay a lot of gas, and there will also be the possibility of front run and MEV. But for layer 2, like they cooperate with the Arbitrum, they made a success. Just like only in the 4G time, you can do the maybe the calling or some e-room for the meeting. E-meetings. And so what's the next for the layer 3? I think it will best provide a better infrastructure so more tailor-made apps can be made there. Maybe we have thought about some of them like lending, gaming, or trading, but I believe there will be more with a better infrastructure. And all of them can onboard more users, millions or even billions of users to the Ethereum ecosystem. And also a healthy ecosystem can also be a good example, which can be learned from to other ecosystems like Bitcoin ecosystem and also maybe Solana ecosystem and others to inspire more to build a hybrid and very vivid ecosystem that will be good for everyone. Yeah.
For 𝘔𝘐𝘚𝘐𝘕, how do you, so you're available on plenty of chains today. I guess it's a single deployment on each chain. Should we expect, or does it make sense to kind of have a L3 𝘔𝘐𝘚𝘐𝘕, the main hub, and on which all the liquidity is on, and after, like, arguably user can call you from Metis, from any other chains and get delivered there?
Yes, you get it. This is one of the roadmap this year for 𝘔𝘐𝘚𝘐𝘕, and also we are very open to collaborate with different partners to see how we can make it. Yes, well, we definitely want to get the liquidity aggregated to provide seamless and also omni-trading experience for the users.
Jose, you have some points to add?
I don't have much to say. I love the idea of 𝘔𝘐𝘚𝘐𝘕 being on a layer 3. That's it.
Right. That's great. So it is quite a rare opportunity to talk to you guys, and I think we still have some time. Is there any questions from the audience that you want to ask our guests? Feel free to raise your hand.
Do not be shy.
Maybe we can ask you the question. Do you think DeFi is back?
Okay. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm the spokesperson for 𝘔𝘐𝘚𝘐𝘕. I'm not supposed to be here, but still, I would say DeFi is back. in terms of on-chain activities and hype around. So we see a lot of different chains, right? And different, we see a lot of potential airdrops is coming on Solana, on Ethereum. People are very anticipating in this crypto industry, and especially Bitcoin after BTC ETF has gone live. I think it attracts a lot more vast majority attention on cryptocurrency. So I'm pretty optimistic in this in current trend, and hopefully it will continue. But still, because we have been quite tortured by the bears, and whenever I feel optimistic, it is a top signal. So, so I will be cautiously optimistic.
Pessimistic.
Kind of pessimistic in a way. Okay, so my friend from 𝘝𝘐𝘚𝘐𝘐𝘕 can have a.
I mean, it's true. I mean, everything, you have more liquidity in aggregate compared to a year ago, but on all these newer chains, like you actually still have super low liquidity. Like I recall checking out, so you have on, I think it's Mental, they have USDY or METH, which are arguably native assets, or I mean very Mental driven, and you still have only a few million liquidity there. And when a ball lending has, let's say, 100 mil or 1 billion, and arguably has to liquidate in one go 100 million position, they're going to send the asset to zero. So we still see a bunch of like weeks, like bad weeks on all these newer chains. So I think like this is actually the most, like the biggest issue I think today is just like the more venues you have, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, especially if they cannot easily talk to each other, is just bad for liquidity. So maybe the thing is to just start being able to like liquidate cross-chain, or have this like more seamless like communication approach in between the chain.
I agree with that. Like the liquidation, the cross-chain liquidations. I mean, if layer 3s, we're talking about like how they can be tailored and how they can also tap into the interoperability spectrum. So we're already seeing solutions across the industry that are tapping into unified liquidity. So if this is something that could be done at a layer 3 level, then I don't believe there should be so much of a worry, because nowadays we see liquidity fragmentation because of this lack of unified liquidity. But if these networks can talk to each other and actually tap into each other's liquidity, then I don't believe it should be a big of a deal or a big problem on the long run.
Thanks. And actually, I have a question for you, but maybe next time. He's from 𝘝𝘚𝘐𝘐𝘐𝘕, the co-founder. But anyway, so I got a question on layer 3. Would you guys think layer 3 would empower non-financial utilities? And is it necessary that non-financial applications happen on-chain? So we can start with anyone who have thought on this.
I don't think it's necessary that they deploy on a layer 3. I think it's, going back to the first point, I think it's about, it's an alternative. It's depending on what use cases they're looking for, what type of dApp they're using. At the end of the day, some of these dApps are building blocks, like DeFi building blocks that should go maybe into Ethereum itself or the layer 2. So I think we will see a lot of newer dApps and newer use cases coming afloat that will be utilizing layer 3s. but I don't believe we'll see a massive migration from like old apps to layer 3s at any point.
Yeah, I'm not ultra convinced on whatever big entity is going to launch its chain. I think we still have some time. One thing that could actually be fun is all these BTF issuers starting their layer 3s have their own trading exchange. That would be pretty fun. They can permission it because they would need to, KYC people, etc. So I still think it's very financially driven, the usage of chains. All the other bits already kind of everyone's like blowing in the same direction with this, with decentralized infrastructure. So whether it's Helium for mobile data or Hive Mapper for like Google Maps, if that's the correct comparison, I'm not sure. But these aspects, yes, and we see it a bit. Your healthcare data, your supply chain data, I think it's, everyone talk about it, but we don't see it much happening.
I think like open ledger or transparent permissionless ledger is not necessary for all the companies or institutions, but besides the financial area, finance for sure, if you can be more transparent and programmable, actually it can be more efficient and safe for everyone. So that's why the blockchain technology is firstly adopted in financial area. But for some non-financial area, I think some maybe like for example, who wants to issue a limited number of the video, like videotapes or some other, maybe some like NFT scenarios, when they want the permission list and also transparency, building a layer 3, from my thinking, I think is much cheaper and easier than maintaining a layer 1. So it's a better way for some maybe for some companies or some other individual institutions to adopt layer 3 technology to use a very safe and very cheaper, simpler way to maintain an open ledger, so they can provide the transparency to their customers and partners. So I think still non-financial area, there's a lot of opportunities for us to explore.
They scale their blockchain on layer 1. It is not very necessarily they will launch layer 2 unless there is a very obvious approach, right? So they scale their blockchain on the same layer. But Ethereum is doing it like layer 3 or even layer 4, 5. So what do you think about Solana? Like how does that compare to the approach of what Ethereum now is doing with rollups? So what do you think about this, how they scale the blockchain?
I mean, it's great that overall they are the only one, let's say, trying to go the hardware is going to improve the blockchain. They're the only one kind of going in this direction. And I mean, it's great just for innovation. Like we have like crypto communities trying one more software, one more hardware. So, and pretty sure that even like what Solana can improve on the hardware side could at some point be, let's say, implemented into Ethereum. If they want to just bump up a bit in, I don't know, 10 years, the hardware requirements, maybe they'll do same easiness to run it in your home, but you get, I don't know, 5x improvement on perf. So I like that they kind of go against the current. And arguably, they go fast enough to not need layer 2. Pith, for example, we forked Solana for, we call it PithNet. It's the first Solana virtual machine chain operated by all data publisher. And it's a complicated chain. It's hard to get developers on it. But it's fast. It's pretty cheap. So I think, and that's why also, for example, we have today the PithDAO governance happens on Solana. Like we don't want people to pay $50 to vote, deciding on who's going to be the nominees of our councils. We want anyone to like half a cent or I don't know the exact cost. So like they deliver on the results already. After, I mean, we're going to have to see at some point layer 2s on top of Solana, I'm pretty sure. Because if they really want to be that global state computer with everything in the same place, I mean, it's not going to fit. They're going to see layers on top of Solana. I don't know when, but we'll see it at some point.
How about Jose? You think Ethereum ways of multi-layer strategy to scale the blockchain, or Solana one, like scaling the hardware, like optimizing the hardware?
I think it's just a different approach. Like nowadays, Solana's approach sounds a little bit simpler because whenever we think about Ethereum, we think about Ethereum, layer 1s, layer 2s, layer 3s. It's going to be so complicated for end users. But we're just talking about the day we will see mass adoption is the day they won't realize that they are utilizing crypto. So regardless of what way they choose to scale the network, I believe if it succeeds, it will be good because it will be that abstract application or UI that users will be able to take advantage of and enjoy. And since we were also mentioning that we're seeing a lot of unified liquidity solutions coming out into the market, it's going to feel like potentially we might get to a point in which they feel like they are just using the same thing, like going from a layer 2 to Solana to whatever layer 1, because they would have a very scalable network, they would have a clean UI, and they would be able to tap into this liquidity regardless from where they are. So I think nowadays, if you ask me, like everything stays like it is right now. What do you think? I think for onboarding new users, Solana sounds simpler, but at the end or where we are going to, I believe it's not going to matter. Both are going to be great solutions, and if well executed, both are going to be able to onboard massive amounts of users and potentially even be interconnected.
Yeah, I agree with Jose. I think like it's exciting to get a scaled solution, like maybe like Solana, like they can make the network very strong and efficient, and to onboard users with a seamless experience. But I think it's still very important to get a very robust ecosystem like Ethereum, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, a multi-layer solution. Because every chain firstly, they are connected with maybe OP stack, stake stack, different technical solutions, which will be more robust. Like if some hacks happening, they will not affect all the networks. There's no single failure risk. And second, I think every chain or every layer 2 or every layer 3, they are like a small nation. So they have their culture, their currency, and their different DAO governance. So think about USD dollars. For sure, if everyone use US dollars or speaking English is very, to get billions of users on board and very easy to communicate for everyone if all the over 200 nations in the world, all they follow the same currency, same language, or same culture. But this will also be some potential risk about it. So why not we sacrifice a little bit efficiency, or we don't rely on just one network to control all. Instead, we can use a more robust solution to have layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and different solutions to see how we can make it to be more efficient and also to be more workable solution for the scaling. Yeah, so I think for now, as there's not too much demand from blockchain computing or storage part, we have enough time and also resources to try different ways. So be more open-minded is a good thing, whether to scaling from layer 1 or from multi-layer. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think we have spoken a lot about layer 2 and layer 3, and even on Solana. So hopefully we got some valuable comments from our speakers, and it is my great pleasure to host this section. And hopefully we could chat more after this session. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you
very much.